Just your biggest takeaway overall from this to start with, Janusz.
Of the quickest one, this was the El Clasico. It was better than Barcelona against Real Madrid, I thought. It always is. Pay-per-view for me when these two meet is just incredible. It doesn't matter how many goals are scored, but just the intensity alone and the rivalry between Klopp and Pep now remind me a little bit of the El Clasico with Pep and Jose Mourinho. But going back, look, this was the season for Liverpool. It really was. And they knew they had to win. They knew they had to get to their absolute best as a team, and also as individuals, because we've had questions about the likes of Van Dijk and Gomez and Mo Salah, and they've all answered, right? I mean, for a game, we saw the Liverpool of all, the one that we've been asking about all season so far, really, for the most part, be it Premier League or Champions League. So absolutely a vital Liverpool win.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Mo Salah, because he was the goal scorer in this game. He had 0 goals in his last 5 games in the Premier League. Haaland had 9 goals in his last 5. Since joining Liverpool, Salah has scored more goals against City than any other player. What went right for him in this clash?
Perfect opposition, a perfect game. I mean, if you're going to obviously make a statement as a team or as a player, this is the game, because Manchester City will allow you to play the way you want, right? And they'll do it even if they know it's not the right way of playing against Liverpool. This is Pep Guardiola. He's going to try to find a way, try to possess the ball, try to find and thread balls, and he's going to give you chances. And I was thinking when Mo Salah scored that goal, and maybe even earlier, Kay, remember when he was one-on-one with Ederson before, twice like that, from halfway line just about. Well, the first one anyway. The second one was that tremendous turn at first touch. My goodness, what a goal that was. But when was the last time we've seen Mo Salah on a run like this? I mean, this is, to a degree, is a trademark. When he's on a breakaway, the control on the ball that he has is better than almost anyone I can think of over distance, right? And so for Mo Salah, this was a perfect game, and gave us a little bit of an indication midweek against Rangers in the Champions League, and the positional switch that I know you've talked to me about could have helped, but I think it was just City, because no other game and no other team will allow you to play like this. I bet you they look forward to playing against Manchester City more so than any other team, Liverpool, that is.
So you don't think him playing more centrally played a factor?
It may have, but I think he could have done that. I mean, he was drifting right anyway a lot of the time. So I think maybe this is something, we've seen the plan B from Jurgen Klopp. I think that was dictated more so because of injuries, some of the issues that he's had, right? I mean, first in midfield and later in the front three. So that could be, time will tell, but I think, I've seen that from him even when he played on the right-hand side. So we'll see if Liverpool can continue doing that, because I think this is one game that evokes such intensity. I don't know if that can be replicated by Liverpool for the rest of the season, but it's a start.
Why not, Janusz? Because that's interesting you say that, because you mentioned that hat-trick from Salah. Granted, the opposition was a lot easier opposition in the Champions League this week, but then that game against Manchester City to show that maybe this could be a turning point.
It could be, but who's going to be? Look, this is the game that I saw pressing. This is the game that I saw tremendous counter pressing, which has been missing. Obviously, winning the ball as soon as you lose it. Who are you going to do it with? Luis Diaz out for 8 weeks. And now Jota is going to be out for 8 weeks. Who's going to be chasing? Bobby Firmino can a little bit. Salah, maybe. Who else? I mean, we don't even know who's going to play there. So, I mean, they're not going to do it to a level that you have with those two players. Darwin Núñez is coming off the bench, but it's a big ask. So I just think that you're losing key factors. As great as of a win as that is, again, Diogo Jota, who was very good on that right-hand side. Let's not forget, I mean, De Bruyne didn't have a game. I wrote it down, so think about it, Manchester City, before you ask me what happened to Manchester City. So that's my segue a little bit too. De Bruyne lost possession 20 times. Think about it, 20 times in a game. Kevin De Bruyne. Foden lost the ball 20 times. And I think, Bernardo Silva lost the ball 19 times. Think about it. That's unbelievable. That goes to show the pressing, the counter pressing, how quickly Liverpool and, the intensity that we talk about. So those players are important. And that's why I don't know if all of a sudden this game, even though it's a win, it's a switch for Liverpool, just like that, to go back what was missing early in the season before that game, or what we saw last season, the season before, and the season before that. And that's what you're going to have from Liverpool. So I think it's a great win, and I think Liverpool can find ways to win differently, but I don't know. Jury's still out. Let's wait and see. West Ham's coming up next, so we'll see.
I've got some more Liverpool questions for you, but first I'd like to know about Erling Haaland, because he's failed to score or assist against Liverpool now twice this season. Is there something in
that? Yes, and only happened two other times. Milinkovic-Savic, Norway against Serbia, and Mark Travers against Bournemouth, right? So think about that. In all the games he's played, club and country, he didn't score only 4 times. That's why I'm just going to stop at that and give him benefit of the doubt. But again, there may be something. Liverpool will hope that, because, Liverpool has been City's bogey team in the last 3 games anyway. It's one game. Pep Guardiola knows that this is a team that can stop him, right? Not many. He probably won't admit it, but he probably thinks everybody else forget about it. We'll find a way. With Erling Haaland, if you remember in Community Shield, he had a sitter. Here he had a good header, which I consider a sitter as well, right? So it's possible, but look, just like I'm not going to think anything of the loss for Manchester City, it changes nothing in my assessment of Manchester City and clear favorites to win this league still. I'm going to go the same with Erling Haaland. I mean, what's he got to do? Score 5 goals every game for us to be happy? I mean, we can't go from one game to have a go at City or Erling Haaland, where just 24 hours earlier we've been saying that he's not human. So, he scored 15 goals now in Premier League, right?
This isn't having a go at him. It's just merely making a point that against Liverpool, he's not had the most success this season.
I also think that this was a great example of giving respect to great players, which we often don't. And look, we've been here every week. I think we've been very fair to Virgil van Dijk, but you go out there and say, well, Van Dijk is done. He's it's over. He's lost a step, 3 or 4. Great players, big players come up in big matches. They just do. They didn't forget how to play football, right? And if you see Van Dijk, and by the way, Joe Gomez, who we've had to go as well, forgetting that he's missed so much time over the last 2 seasons with injury, right? We've had to go at him again. I remember many games, but one of them was, I think, Napoli game, right? Where he really had to play 2 positions, because he had to play his own as a center back and for Trent Alexander-Arnold, who didn't defend at all, right? But we know Joe Gomez at his best is capable of that, and he's helped in containing Erling Haaland in that game. So I think, chapeau, as I say, to Van Dijk, to show that he's still one of the best center backs in the world. That was Haaland's problem as well.
Well, Jurgen Klopp said after the game, it was the best game our defensive line played this season. The timing was nearly perfect. And you see that turnaround. You mentioned that game against Napoli for Gomez and Van Dijk. The 2 of them were just brilliant in their role against City.
Yes. Yeah. Look, I think, they all seem like excuses, but when big teams lose or big teams on a better run of form, then I do, as a former player, I always look at the injuries and who's injured and who's played with whom and when, because that to me is important. I think in the media maybe, or fans will see it otherwise, because everybody's getting injured and all. But I think it's significant when the back line's consistently changing, front line's consistently changing. This is a testing and a trying year for Jurgen Klopp. By any means, he's got to figure it out. This, it is an excuse, but it isn't at the same time, because it's a massive club that wants to win the biggest trophies in the world. But I can understand why Liverpool has had such a hard time. This is kind of rebuild and injuries again, and they have to figure out these injuries. It just happened too often where key players are always out.
Yeah, and they're close friends as well. And there's always something in that, isn't it? There's an understanding between players when they're friends on the pitch and off the pitch. And I suppose that's something that can go underestimated sometimes. Another thing, and I know the goal came late, but Liverpool scoring first, I suppose that's got to be taken into account, because they had conceded first in 10 of the 12 past games. I want to just pick out a few of the players that stood out for you. James Milner playing at right back had a few people worried before the game, but in the end, he came out with a lot of people saying, okay, that worked.
Yes, yeah, I think people were worried, but at least he had one job, right? He wasn't asked to do anything else but stay back and make sure that Phil Foden doesn't play well. And by the way, Phil Foden always, in my opinion, plays well on the left-hand side, because there's a big question: is he going to play on the left or is he going to play on the right? He's going to be Grealish, right? I mean, he's a great player; he can play both. But I think if my memory serves me right, he's been very good on the left in matches against Liverpool. So for Foden, big. And as I said, massive job by Diogo Jota. Not this, I mean, on both sides of the ball, but that was really good, because that right-hand side worried me, especially with Cancelo coming over. I thought De Bruyne is going to kind of, drift inside, create space for Cancelo, which will mean he's going to have even more freedom to go forward. Andy Robertson just coming back, another player that after an injury came in and looked as if he's never left. Very good game. So look, but I think what happened was, and you've mentioned it, all of that we just mentioned was possible because that positive start. The first 10-15 minutes were lightning again from Liverpool. Then there was a bit of a lull for 10-15 minutes, but when the lull comes, when Manchester City are trying to find the rhythm, right, nothing really happened. And that was the biggest takeaway of all, now that I think about it, is that City never looked themselves, even possession. I looked at the possession one time early in the first half. It wasn't all that great, not normal. And I think Liverpool disrupted the normal flow of Manchester City in terms of how they possess and how they combine. And Liverpool can do that. And they just love doing it against Manchester City. I can see it. Every game is going to be the same. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but Manchester City know that this is the toughest opponent by far. It's not even close.
You've just answered my next question, which is, where did City fall short? So just to put a little full stop, a period on the end of this segment, what did you make of the VAR decision on Haaland's pull on Fabinho's shirt, which meant that the goal from Phil Foden was disallowed? Right call?
Yeah, 2 fouls there. If you didn't like the first one, the pull, I mean, obviously the goalkeeper coming out, Haaland's fouling on the second one. So take your pick either way, no questions asked. Probably shouldn't even go to VAR.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.